Hey everybody, welcome back. We are finally back to some more of the Marshall models inside of the Headrush pedal board and gig board after taking a little bit of a break. And I wanted to cover the modded JCM models this time around. So you're talking about the TS mod, the Bright Mod, and my favorite, the Bass Mod. So basically the way I can explain these amps is they're kind of if your starting point is the stock JCM800 50 watter, they all kind of each have increasing levels of gain in them as you go up, starting with the TS to the Bright, and finally the Bass Mod with the most gain in it. So glad to be doing this video finally. Believe it or not, this is another one of those videos I've had to film 3 times because I lost some portion of audio or just something else went wrong. So I really hope you enjoy this one. I've been dying to get it to you. Alright, so the way I want to demonstrate these is I'm going to take basically the way I would dial in the stock JCM800 50 watter because that is what these modded JCMs are based on. And just a quick rig rundown here. I'm using my usual small plate reverb with just a 10% mix for a little bit of room. The impulse response is provided again for free by Leon Todd. This is an impulse response of his Marshall 412 with vintage 30s. We have my Headrush pedal board kind of template going on with the post EQ and the post compression. Alright, there's a whole video on that. I'm not going to go into what that does in this video. Just go ahead and watch that. But so basically my stock JCM800 50 watter settings are like this. Alright, nothing crazy going on there. And just for reference, that sounds like this. It's a 2204. And the first one we're checking out is the TS mod out of the modded Marshalls. And we'll switch over to that amp right now. This is it at stock settings. Everything all the halfway up except for the presence at 30 is how that guy comes, and that sounds like this. Right, so right out of the gate, there's definitely a little more gain on tap in that. And it's thicker too. I don't know what TS means. I've actually inquired with the Headrush people and have not gotten an answer. The obvious thing people say is, oh, it's the Tube Screamer mod. It's emulating the clipping you would get in a Tube Screamer pedal, but it's built into the amp. Maybe, I don't know if that's true. But there's definitely more gain on tap. The tone stack does seem to have a little bit more of a mid-forward kind of thing, so maybe there is some truth to the Tube Screamer emulation thing going on. A lot of times when you're talking modded Marshalls, a lot of those mods involve some kind of diode clipping, which is basically like adding pedal distortion into your amp. Not quite, but you know, basically you're getting solid state distortion happening in your amp, in your tube amp, and that's how those work. But so I do have some more ideal settings for these, and I'm not going to experiment too much just to keep the video shorter. I'm going to show you just the stock JCM 50 watter versus the stock modded model of the 3 that we're going to do, and then I'll take that modded model straight to my ideal settings that I would use, and that's just going to save us a ton of time. So with this one, with the TS mod, where I would start is I like cranking the master volume on this guy. I don't do that with the stock JCM800. Typically with JCM800s, I rely on the preamp distortion a little more, just because to me that's what they're built for. There are no hard rules, but to me, if I want, you know, that that power amp distortion to be dominant in the sound, I'm gonna go with a plexi. But I do like it out of this model. So, and the preamp is gonna go right up to 70 as well. So this is gonna be a hot amp. But we'll do presence at like 70, right about where I would take that. So as we go up in gain, these amps do get a little bit darker, so some added brightness is a good thing. I'm going to take the bass down just a little bit to 40 and bump the mids up to, we'll do 60. And then the treble, we'll go up to 70 on that. All right, and at those settings, that sounds like this. So it's got that JCM kind of like fizz to it, that scratchy high end, that right, that kind of thing in the high end going on. But it's also a little bit thicker and darker than just the stock ones, and there's definitely a lot more included gain in the amp model without having to boost it. So other than that, there's really nothing too fancy going on with this. If you just want JCM800 plus a little extra, the TS model is probably for you. There really aren't any extra dials on it or anything that you have to mess with. So we're just gonna move right on to the Bright Mod now. So again, we've got the stock JCM 50 watter that I use quite often. And then the modded one, which I need to bring back to stock settings and turn off. So anyway, the stock one again sounds like this. Alright, so there's that, and then we are going to go to the stock settings of the Bright Mod now, which is, again, everything halfway up except for presence at 30, just like the amp before it, except this model's got some built-in tremolo, which is neat because that'll save you a block if you like to use tremolo. You can assign this amp's tremolo to a foot switch without having to have a tremolo effect pedal in your chain. So DSP saved, block saved. And then the other addition, which makes sense because this is a Bright Mod, is this one's got a bright switch on it. And literally just does what it does as advertised. But so anyway, at stock settings, we're going to do at stock settings with bright off and then bright on. And that sounds like this. Okay, with the bright on. So you'll notice that this one, even with the bright switch off, is, well, brighter than the TS model before it. Gain-wise, I think they're about equal. But so one thing you'll notice is you lose the terminology for preamp gain on this amp, and it just says gain. So we just treat that as preamp, because that's basically what that means in any real guitar amplifier anyways. That's not really what gain is. If you talk to any amp tech, audiophiles, that kind of person. But to us guitar players, gain just means more distortion, and that's okay to say that. Don't let the forum snobs correct you. Just have fun playing guitar. But anyway, this is another one where I like the gain all the way up. So not the master, the gain is all the way up in this one. I bring the presence to about 65 because it is already pretty bright. And we're gonna do 60 on that. And then I actually lower the master volume on this one because with the gain all the way up, it kind of loses definition a little bit. And if you just turn the master volume back down, it kind of starts taking out a lot of that that low mid, that 400 hertz range, which can really tend to muddy things up. So we're not lowering it crazy, just enough for a little definition because the master volume also gives you thickness. Okay, for treble, I go with my usual 70. I like 70 on Marshall amps, except the Plexi. I put it right to 100 on a Plexi. For mids, we're going with a pretty conservative 65 here, and we're gonna lower the bass again to 40. All right, again with the bright switch off. And to me, the bright switch starts losing a bit of effectiveness as you turn the amp up louder or just add gain to it. It's definitely more prominent in cleaner sounds with this amp, but we're going to test it both ways again. So this is those settings with the bright off. So right away, there's a ton more gain in this amp compared to the TS model. I don't know if you can hear it. Maybe it's something you can feel more, but this amp is also a lot tighter than the TS model, and definitely tighter than the stock JCM800, the stock 2204. So now we're really getting into more like the more extreme Jose mod territory. So that again with the bright switch. So bright switch off. And bright switch on. Alright, that's an awesome sound. That is, I think that is every kid's dream Marshall sound right there. That is until you hear the bass mod, which is what I'm going to cover next. But like I said too, you can assign the bright switch. So I'm turning it off with a switch. You can assign that to a foot switch, maybe use it just for tonal variety, or maybe make it part of your rhythm, your rhythm tone versus your lead tone. Kind of incorporate that concept in there somewhere. I guess I'll show you real quick how that's done, because I do want to make a video on everything you can do in hardware assign sometime, but I'm just trying to get to it. Oh, I also assigned that amp's tremolo to a foot switch, which is pretty neat. So basically, right, so let's get rid of this. All right, so you've got an empty block here in hardware assign. You hit that, you pick the amp that you want to use a feature of on a foot switch. In our case, it's amp 2. And we're going to pick bright. And now it has assigned, I'll show you this way. Now it has assigned the bright switch of that amp. And notice the tremolo. I've also have that assigned to a foot switch. See that turning on and off. So pretty neat feature there. Again, saves you a block. Yeah, I think for me that about covers this one. This one is it's already like a pretty rockin', a higher gain Marshall sound. But let's go right to the bass mod, just so I don't go on too long here. We are going to discard those changes. Alright, so now we're on to the bass mod, and let's go back to stock settings on that. So we once again, all these rigs are using everything exactly the same as far as reverb, the post EQ, and the impulse response, by the way. Some of the effects are different. I just wanted to throw in some variety for when you download these rigs. If you even download these rigs off of the links in the description. Just wanted to give you some variety, so I'm not just giving you the same rig 3 times with a different amp. But we are again at my stock JCM800s, and that's this. Alright, you've heard that one enough in this video so far, so let's go right over to the stock settings of the bass mod, which again comes with gain versus the preamp label. Pretty much set up like the Bright Mod, even including that it has a tremolo and a bright switch built in again. For this amp, I'm just going to leave it on. I won't show you an on versus off because I just have it on in this model all the time anyway. But at stock settings, that sounds like this. Yeah, that already sounds amazing at stock settings, right? I do change quite a bit, but honestly, if you just want a grab and go quick Marshall tone, or even something along the lines of like one of the Friedman BE amps, that's more reminiscent of that to me. Is one of those really hot cooking Friedman BE amps, which are awesome. But I will change this sound up just a little bit, because it's just not fun leaving everything at stock settings, right? So we're gonna go crazy on the gain on this one. And you heard that stock level of gain was like the completely cranked gain on the Bright Mod just now. And again, very tight in this amp. We'll do presence at 70. And the master, we're gonna bring the master up on this one, so yet another variation. So this amp can actually get too bright very quickly, and if you add a little bit of master volume, you're doing the opposite of what I just said in the Bright Mod, which is you're adding a little bit of thickness again, kind of smoothing some things over, because that's what volume does, right? In like a real tube amp, the more you turn up the master volume, it adds some lows, which is somewhat undesirable, but it also smooths out the highs, and that's exactly what's happening here. So treble, we are going to go with my usual 70, mids 65. It's got tons of mids already in it, and we're going to bring the bass down to 45. Trem off, bright switch on, and that sounds like this. Right, so it's that kind of sound that's tons and tons of fun to play. Tons of fun to even throw a boost in front of that. So we've got the tube screamer with the drive at 0, tone at 50, and the level not quite all the way up. I find if you have the level at 100% on the Headrush's tube screamer, it can tend to make the amp model quieter. It's probably just too much distortion. More distortion tends to lose dynamics, which loses what are called transients, and then you lose basically what's called attack, and you get lost in the full band mix, all that kind of stuff. But well, we're gonna boost it anyway because that shit's just fun. All right, so the tube screamer in the front, turn on some delay, and my graphic EQ solo boost. Right, and that sounds like this. So if you're going for a straight up just hair metal Marshall tone, sorry, I had to adjust my seating there. This is the amp model for you. To tell you the truth, I don't know why it's called the bass mod. It doesn't really seem to have added bass compared to the other models, but it sure has the most gain out of all of them, and it's just really fun to play. It's, I mean, what else can I say? Who doesn't love playing a sound like that? Yeah, so that about covers those. I was really excited to show these ones to you, especially after taking a break from the Marshall amps. I do intend to make, I think, 2 more Marshall videos. I would really like to cover the EL84 modded Plexi and the Variac Plexi. No, maybe it's just the one more. I think that would just about cover the Marshall models, and then get into some lighter stuff again. And I really, really want to end with the standard Soldano and the Soldano extended range, because that is literally my bread and butter in the Headrush for use with my band. So I'm glad I finally got this one out. Hopefully all the audio turns out okay when I go to editing this one. And thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I'm really starting to build the channel up a little bit, and I would love to get just some more attention on this channel, help it grow, maybe help Headrush notice it, help the Headrush community, the Headrush forums notice it. So I think there's just a lot of people with questions about the Headrush, and they just don't know where to go to ask. And there isn't as much like YouTube content on the Headrush pedal board as there is for things like the Helix and the Fractal products. So, let's just all try and help each other with this one. Thanks, guys.